Hey everybody, this is Caesar with SmallEngineVelocity coming at you with another video from Venom MotorSports. This has to do with a new bike that they sent me. And if you haven't seen the unboxing of this bike, I will put it up right here. Today, we will go over some of the details about this bike and kind of the inner workings as to what it's made of, how big it is, and who is it made for, and what is it like in the industry right now with other bikes that are similar out there right now. I have done bikes for Venom before. If you don't remember, I've done the X22 GT 250cc automatic street bike, which is up here. And coincidentally, this bike is also an automatic bike. Ever since I came out with that X22 GT video series, I've been getting a lot of questions about automatic motorcycles and bikes for beginners, and this kind of just falls within that theme of the bikes that I've had so far from Venom. So what is this bike? Well, it is the X18R 200cc automatic street bike. Now, this bike is not like the full-size bike that I did previously. It's a little bit smaller. It's closer to a Honda Grom / Honda Navi type size. It is automatic, but it is got a bigger motor than the Navi. Instead of 110cc, this is a 200cc 4-stroke motor based off of a GY6, which is kind of a Honda design already. It is street legal. It will come with an MCO, so you can get a title. It's DOT and EPA certified, and it's about 110 pounds dry. The bike has 12-inch wheels, front and rear disc brakes. It is carbureted. It does have a, the standard, like a speedometer, fuel gauge. It doesn't have a tachometer, which we'll remedy later on when we get to the tuning portion. And it does have a dirt bike style lock in the front so that you can actually close the lock hole so that people can't try to stick stuff inside of there to try to steal the bike, or at least it'll slow them down. And the way gas prices are nowadays, this might be a good option for the putting around town type thing if you want, because of course it's a 200cc GY6, so you'll get plenty of gas mileage out of this. Maybe even you can take it to work. I don't know. So before we begin, let's go ahead and roll that intro. All right, now that we got that over with, let's kind of do a little bit of a tour of this bike. The first thing I'm going to show you, you can see, is the dash. That seems to be an important thing to people to take a look at. You can see that there is a speedo on here, a fuel gauge, and a little section to the right that has your signal lights as they blink, your low fuel light, I don't know, other lights. I actually haven't had a lot of the lights come on because everything's been working so great, but that's where you'll see that. Then you'll have the right side controls where you can see that there's the throttle where you turn to give yourself gas. There's a left and right kill switch. Usually it's an up and down, but this is a left and right kill switch. And then on the bottom, like every bike, there's the starter button. Then we take a look at the left side and you'll see that you have high beam, low beam, and then your turn signals. What's cool about the turn signals is, of course, there's a cancel button in the center. And then you also have your horn. Now, make note that there is no lever on this side because the rear brake is on your foot. And if this was a standard, there'd be a clutch there. There is no clutch since it's an automatic. Therefore, no lever on the left side. Kind of takes a little bit to get used to because I always cover it, but in every other bike that I've ever had, but there is none here. Like I mentioned before, there is a locking gas cap with a cover. You basically slide the lid over, put the key in, turn the key, it will pop out. And then when you want to put it back in, just push it back in and the key will go into a locking position. Please ignore the blue on here. I did not peel off the safety stuff on there to protect it from being scratched. I left it on there. I haven't taken any of it off yet. I want you to see what it looks like new. In the front, there's inverted forks, meaning that it's upside down from normal on the way the front suspension is. And then you can see that it has hydraulic brakes. The front wheel is a 120/70 in the front. Is it 12 or 13? 12 in the front. And then in the rear, it has hydraulic disc brakes, and that rear disc brake is controlled by your right foot, like on a standard bike, a foot lever for your brakes. Unlike the X22 GT 250, the left and right was your front and rear brake, versus in this bike, the right is your front brake and your foot is the rear brake. I actually prefer it that way. At the back, you have full LED tail light with braking lights, left and right signals, which is pretty standard. It's disconnected though. It is on the tail fin on there, so maybe there's another solution we could come up with, maybe to utilize the one that's actually built into the seat. But we'll see. It's bright enough, and you have to keep in mind a lot of the stuff was put in for street legal and EPA stuff in the United States, so they have to change things up to make sure that it complies with those things. Now, there is a rear deck and a rear seat cushion in the back, but if you do notice, there's a little sticker on there that says no passengers, don't sit anyone on there. So this is a solo bike. You're not supposed to put anyone on the back there. Now, the seat is pretty plush, it's pretty cushiony, and it is pretty wide. I sat on it and rode around for it for a little bit, and it is pretty comfortable. I enjoy sitting on it right now. I haven't felt anything that was immediately uncomfortable, but time will tell. And then, of course, I mentioned before also, this is a carbureted bike. It is a GY6, so generally GY6s are carbureted unless you do something aftermarket to make it fuel injected, but this is a carbureted. It looks like a 26 or 28 millimeter carb in the back. I can't tell. I haven't got that far inside of it yet. You can actually see the coil from right here, tucked away on the side. And if you look all the way up the shock, you can see the rectifier at the very top, bolted down at the top. What's different on this also is that there's a little toolkit in the back that's easily accessible. Usually you see this on things like dirt bikes, where you can put tools in there, patch kits, stuff for your tire, maybe a little pump and wrenches, but it does come with a little toolkit that you can insert inside of here if you need it for some type of emergency purpose. But as a preview, one of the things, since this is the carb that it's using in here is a pretty standard carb that comes with the GY6, I wanted to try to see if there was a way I could put a slide carb in here, get a little more throttle response, maybe a little bit more speed out of it. But again, that's a whole nother set of videos. Be sure to subscribe if you want to see any of those pop up about this bike. So one of the things I like to explore immediately is the intake, or the filter that goes over the intake portion to bring that air into the motor through the carburetor to get combustion. So if you look at the side, there's a little lid that you can take off. That I don't know why it's there, but you could take it off and you could see through into the intake before the carburetor and before the filter. You'll notice that there's a little curve up at the front where air can get scooped into there and pushed into that plenum before it gets to the filter. You can take the plastic off of the back, and when you take that plastic off, it's a little bit difficult to remove because of the center shock mount that comes across, but when you get that out, you will notice that there is a foam filter in there, and it is a pretty thick foam filter, but it does look like it breathes pretty well. It looks also like you could also take that filter out and wash it out if you needed to after a while, if you were doing service on the bike, or let's say you drove through a dirty, dusty, or a bunch of grass or something like that, just for regular maintenance. It does look like it's cleanable. So the next thing I wanted to do, of course, it is an automatic bike, so it does have a CVT transmission that uses a variator and a belt and a clutch, and how it gains speed is as one side accelerates, it pushes the belt out as the other side shrinks, so that controls your gear ratio across it. This is very common on scooters. You'll see it on Vespas, Ruckuses, Yamaha, Zuma, anything that's a scooter, 2-stroke, 4-stroke, anything. It's pretty standard. What's nice about this CVT is that it is GY6 based, so just like with the motor and the carburetor and everything else, these are all standardized parts that you can find on Amazon, Scooter Works, you can find it anywhere. Tons of aftermarket parts. Whether or not all of them will fit, I don't know. I tend to find out, but performance mod should work in this CVT. After I took off the CVT cover, which was a little bit difficult, I noticed that the belt is an 842/20/30, which I believe is what I have on the Honda Ruckus right now. It's a little bit of a longer belt and it's made for top end. Once I got the drive face off and I pulled the belt off to get the variator off, I noticed that the variator is made of aluminum and it seemed like it was a good quality. It didn't look pretty bad. The ramps were a little bit rough from the casting. They look like they could use a little bit of a polish, but for rollers that's fine. When it comes to sliders, it might be a little bit difficult, and with that rough surface might come premature wear or flat spots on your rollers, but that's easily solvable with like a $20 aftermarket piece that you could throw inside of here that would give you even better performance with those ramps on there. But right now it's a pretty good piece that's sitting in there right now. So of course, to get a little bit of a profile of the motor, I wanted to know what the roller weights that came in stock. So when I did some weighing, it looks like they're all about 14.1 to 14.2 grams per roller. To me, that seems like it's a little bit high of a number for the rollers. Currently what I have in mind right now is 12, and I'm at a 171 to get certain performance. It may be because they're trying to grab more top end out of it. I haven't experimented with any of that yet, so I don't know, but it does have 14.1 to 14.2 gram sliders inside of the, rollers inside of there right now. Later on, we can mess with the weight size to balance that acceleration / top end on here to see what's the best combination for my weight. Now I did weighing on the variator, and the variator is 267.64 grams. Make note of that for future videos when we get an aftermarket that we try to put inside of here. And the drive face itself was 173.68 grams, which is pretty normal for a lot of these. Look the same if you look at it and you've ever had a GY6 as all the other stuff that I've ever worked with, so I'm very familiar with it. So I'm pretty sure we can crank some more speed out of this bike. One thing the bike doesn't have is a tachometer. It's really not that important when you're just driving a scooter or this bike with a GY6 motor in it, but it does come into play when you start to do tuning in the CVT, because you have to put weights in that actually get you into that power band and to be able to utilize that power band best. Stay tuned for future videos on that. So let's go ahead, get on this bike and ride it up and down the street and kind of give you a little bit of an idea of what you're looking at when it comes to riding this around. So let's go ahead and switch to that helmet cam. Okay guys, so we're gonna go ahead and take a quick street ride up and down the street that I live on. Only reason being is because I don't have papers. I don't have the MCO or anything set up yet, so I really don't want to drive or ride it and then get a ticket or anything like that. So I'm not gonna go very fast, only because this is an unfamiliar bike, and and I make that recommendation to anyone, especially if you're first time rider. If this is your first bike, I don't want you to just haul butt everywhere and not start to know the way it feels in a turn or something, because driving something straight is incredibly easy. Driving something on a curve or a turn, every bike is a little bit different. You need to get used to that first before you go. But yes, I don't have gloves, I don't have jeans, I'm just going up and down the street, so here we go. Alright, so first, check my horn, my kill switch works, see, that's good, right? Throttle works, brake, my other brake down here is there, everything looks good. So when you sit on this bike, it's a little bit of a forward position. See how the bars are handled out? So it's got that right pitch, for me at least, so that my wrists, when I have my elbows bent a little bit, is a little bit prone. You are leaning a little bit though, and then the foot position, I don't know if you can tell, is a little bit, it's high, and it makes my legs lock into this notch right here. So that's kind of nice. It gives you a good grip on the bike. You can kind of hold on to it. There are some changes I want to make with the way this handlebar is set up, but that'll be a whole nother video on the changes. So let's go down the street a little bit. So I don't have a lot of gas in here right now, so yeah. The mirrors are vibrating a little bit, but I don't think I tightened them all the way. But this is the part that you need to be wary of whenever you... Oh, I forgot to put the kickstand up. Oops. There you go. See? So you got to get used to that turn, especially with the way these bars are. They're not a flat bar. They're also not like a bicycle where they're kind of high and everything. So you got to kind of be used to this type of stuff. So far I got 2 miles on here. If you can imagine, I've driven 2 miles going back and forth on this one road right here, on here. Yeah, remember, it's a new bike, so you don't want to like gun it around a lot. You got to do a little bit of a break-in period, kind of turn it a little bit and do a little bit of sway and get used to it. Let's go turn around. Power in the turn. There you go. So far, this is pretty comfortable. I think if you are a short person, this would work. I'm pretty flat foot when I sit on this, but it is a little bit of a hunch over sport bike feel to it. It's kind of weird because it's like size of a Grom. It rides is an automatic like a Navi, but then it's also an automatic. So yeah, this is a particular niche, especially if you've never ridden a bike before and you want to kind of get used to it. This is a great starter vehicle, or maybe a bike for the wife who wants to ride with you but doesn't want to learn to drive a stick and only ride it every once in a while. That's a good value for you. Maybe if you want to go a little bit bigger, you can get the X22 GT automatic 250cc sport bike, but this is good. I like it. So the next steps I'm going to do on this build series, or this review on this bike, I'm going to go over, make a couple of changes here and there as far as the way it rides. For example, I want to bring this gap down right here, and then I also want to pull the suspension through some more and then put the clip-ons on the top so they're a little bit higher, and then this position here is a little bit lower and more tucked in, a little more streamlined, a little bit less of a wedge shape. Apart from that, all I have to do is just drive it. I don't want to make too many changes before I actually ride it on the street, because I want everyone to know what it's like stock, and then after that compare it with changes. So anyways, hope everybody liked this video. Do me a favor, subscribe if you want to see more like this, because there are going to be plenty more videos on this particular bike and modifications, and maybe some performance tips and stuff. So alright, enjoy, and I'll see you everybody in the next video.